The global information landscape is undergoing a monumental transformation, one that threatens to upend the long-standing dominance of Western media. For decades, media outlets like CNN, BBC, and the New York Times have controlled the global narrative, influencing international opinion, politics, and cultural trends. These outlets, backed by Western governments and corporations, have served as the primary vehicles for disseminating information globally. However, the rise of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has introduced a serious challenger to this hegemony. These nations are not only challenging the West's control over media narratives, but are also developing new platforms and strategies to reshape the global information order. With new digital technologies, alternative media networks, and state-backed media like China's CGTN and Russia's RT, BRICS is creating a multipolar world of information. In this video, we explore how BRICS nations are breaking U.S. media control, the impact this shift will have on global politics, and what the future holds for the world's information ecosystem. Western media dominance has been an integral part of global soft power since the end of World War II. The United States, in particular, utilized its media prowess during the Cold War to spread democratic ideals, promote capitalism, and undermine communist regimes. News outlets like Voice of America and the BBC were instrumental in shaping global opinion against the Soviet Union. Even in the 21st century, the West's influence on global media has been undeniable. Outlets such as CNN, Fox News, and major European news networks have shaped narratives on critical global issues like the Iraq War, the 2008 financial crisis, and the Arab Spring. Control of digital platforms like Google, Facebook, and Twitter has further cemented the West's control over the flow of information. But this dominance is being challenged, especially as BRICS nations seek to exert their influence on the global stage. Countries like Russia and China have become more vocal about what they view as a Western bias in global media, especially regarding issues such as the war in Ukraine, China's human rights record, and trade disputes. To counter Western media influence, BRICS nations have started to develop their own state-backed media outlets and digital platforms, which aim to provide alternative narratives to the ones broadcasted by Western media giants. China has heavily invested in expanding its global media footprint. The China Global Television Network, CGTN, broadcasts in multiple languages and is available in over 100 countries. Its goal is to provide an alternative view of global news, particularly stories related to China's economic initiatives, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which Western media often criticize. Similarly, Russia has used RT, formerly Russia Today, to shape international perceptions, especially concerning the conflict in Ukraine and Western sanctions. India is also expanding its global media reach. Although India is more aligned with the West in some geopolitical areas, Indian media outlets like NDTV and the Times of India are growing in influence, particularly in the global South. Indian media is focused on showcasing the country's rise as a global power and countering negative Western coverage on issues such as the Kashmir conflict and the handling of domestic policies. Brazil and South Africa, while not as prominent in the global media race, are also utilizing their platforms to challenge Western narratives on economic policies and the rights of developing nations. The expansion of BRICS media networks is reshaping global information flows and giving non-Western nations a platform to present their perspectives on international affairs. One of the key drivers behind the shift in media dominance is the rise of digital technologies. While Western social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have traditionally controlled much of the online space, BRICS nations are developing their own tech ecosystems. China has created an entire digital infrastructure independent of the West, with platforms like WeChat, Weibo, and Douyin, TikTok, dominating domestic and, increasingly, global social media landscapes. Chinese tech companies are rapidly expanding into developing countries, providing alternatives to Western-controlled platforms. Russia is following suit with its own social media platform, VK Kontakte, and its increasing restrictions on Western platforms. After multiple sanctions from the West, Russia began pushing for technological independence, including the creation of its own internet infrastructure and media services. India is also developing homegrown tech solutions, with the government promoting digital sovereignty. Platforms like Jio and Airtel are poised to reduce the country's reliance on Western tech, allowing India to build its own narratives through its own digital media networks. The BRICS nations are not simply trying to challenge the West. They are actively creating a new global media order. Through state-sponsored news outlets, digital platforms, and social media, BRICS is positioning itself as a counterbalance to what it views as biased and one-sided Western coverage. A significant part of this strategy involves creating content tailored for the global South. BRICS media outlets often highlight the successes of developing nations and downplay or challenge negative Western reporting on issues such as human rights abuses or government corruption. For instance, BRICS outlets frequently emphasize China's economic partnerships in Africa, presenting them as mutually beneficial while downplaying accusations of debt trap diplomacy. Another strategy involves promoting a multipolar world order, in which media narratives are no longer controlled by a single bloc. This resonates with many developing countries, which feel marginalized by Western media and are seeking new sources of information. The West is increasingly aware of the growing influence of BRICS media, and there are concerns that these new platforms could undermine the credibility of Western journalism and spread disinformation. In response, Western countries are ramping up their efforts to counter BRICS media influence. For example, the European Union and United States have launched initiatives aimed at countering Russian and Chinese state-backed disinformation campaigns. These initiatives involve increasing funding for fact-checking organizations and promoting media literacy programs in developing countries to counter the spread of alternative narratives. Furthermore, Western media outlets are adapting by diversifying their coverage to appeal to global audiences. Networks like BBC World Service and Al Jazeera, Qatari but with strong Western ties, are investing heavily in local language services to maintain their influence in Africa and Asia. However, with the growing appeal of BRICS-aligned media networks, the battle for control over the global narrative is far from over. In conclusion, the rise of BRICS media is fundamentally reshaping the global information landscape. As these nations expand their influence through state-backed media, digital platforms, and social media, they are providing alternative narratives to the ones traditionally offered by Western outlets. This new media order is appealing to many countries in the global South, who feel marginalized by Western coverage. The shift in media power is not just about controlling information. It's about shaping global perceptions and influencing international politics. As BRICS continues to expand its media reach, the West will need to adapt to this new reality, where information is no longer controlled by a single dominant bloc. What do you think about BRICS's rise in global media? Will it successfully challenge Western media dominance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on the shifting global power structure.